Hey YouTube. Alright, welcome back to my channel. As you can tell, this time I'm wearing headphones because while I was editing the last three videos, I realized that you could hear that pretty constant hum of computer drives in the background. That's because the office I was running it in, we have mainframes that do things. So hopefully the headphones can kind of cut back on that. I actually don't have any recording equipment out here. Maybe when I get home in a few months, I can set something up to make things a little easier, better, to increase the quality. But for now, this is what we have. So I figure I will update, probably like up here, my current net worth, which actually dropped down by $5,000. So let me update you on that a little bit. So if you've watched my previous videos, you'll know that my goal is to have $500,000 by the end of next year. Super excited about it. Can't wait while we develop the plan in order to do this. Now, when I gave you my initial number, my initial net worth, I think it was 384,000. I did something I didn't realize I did until more recently. So right before I start making these videos, I want to pay off one of my credit cards. That's one of the few debts I have. I have $4,000 remaining on a credit card. Instead of putting in like $500 like I meant to, I clicked to pay off the entire amount. Now, of course, I didn't have that much money in my checking account at the time. So it ended up kicking back my thing, or kicking back my payment. But for a few days, it took the payment on the credit card, but it didn't deduct it from my checking account. So it looked as though I had money both in my checking account and a paid off credit card, which wasn't the way it actually was. So my my new adjusted net worth is 376 or 379. And I know we're going in the opposite direction that I want to go in. It sucks. I was kind of sad when I noticed it because one, I should have noticed it, but the other thing is that I it sucks when you set goals and then you go backwards. But it's still early on, so we're going to move forward. So the subject of this video is sort of goals and how I do my goals and how I think would be best for a lot of people to do to set goals. So what I do is I try to always have three goals going at any given time. But I try to have different categories of goals. So for example, one personal, which is just me. It's usually self-improvement, educational, something like that, which I'm doing right now by taking a college class. I'm only taking one, but or I'm only taking one right now, but it's getting me slowly back into the whole mindset of actually being a college student because I'm 34 now. Yeah, 34. And I haven't done any college since I was like 26. Really early in my Navy career. So I want to get back to that and kind of get more in the habit of always trying to learn something new. So college is number one. Number two is usually I try to do something more athletic. Like for me, when I was in the military, I worked out all the time, and then I got out. And as most people who've gotten out of the military know, you tend to, well, some people tend to kind of drop off, and they don't work out nearly as much. They tend to put on weight, stuff like that. So I would like to get back into eating right and working out more. That's going to be a little bit of a delayed start because right now, because of coronavirus on this base, the whole base is pretty much locked down. So we can't eat right because we're eating pretty much MREs or meals ready to eat. They're like these it's like packaged food. It's not bad tasting, although it's been 2 months, so it's starting to be tiring. But it's not exactly known to being very healthy. In fact, it's very caloric heavy because it's meant for war fighters who are going out and like hiking up and down mountains with assault packs and stuff like that. So it's really meant, like the whole thing, a whole MRE is like 4,000 calories. So I try not to eat very much of it, but you know it's meant to keep you moving and keep you going. So we're gonna try our best to do that. But I think the working out one might have to be pushed off until I get home, and then I'll set a definitive goal for what I want to accomplish. So that leaves my financial goal. My financial goal, the reason I picked $500,000 is because, one, it, to me, it's a very good milestone to hit. So, little story about myself. When I grew up very poor. My mom and dad were never married. Now, my dad always stayed in the picture. He would see me like once a month or twice a month for the weekend. But I pretty much lived with my mom, and my mom had myself and my older sister. For a while, my mom never really had a good job. She was married to a guy who left her. He was an alcoholic, and he was somewhat abusive and stuff like that. And she ended up leaving. So we were out on our own without really having any options. So we ended up moving into a house in the Frankfurt section of Philadelphia. This particular house was actually abandoned, and I didn't know about this at the time. I just thought, we're living in a house, sure. But we lived there for a little while, and we lived there for about 2 years. I actually started first grade while we lived there. And during that time, my mom was going to college, trying to finish up with her degree. She got her associates in criminal justice, and she also we also collected welfare, and we pretty much squatted in this house for a while. My mom ended up getting a better job, and we slowly worked our way up. And from that time, about 15 years later, my mom bought her first house she ever owned before in her life. It's a row home in Philadelphia, and she still lives there to that day. Still lives there to this day. It's a really nice house. Every time I go home to Philly, I end up sleeping there, and my mom did that. Now, she also bought her first car about 10 years ago. So a little bit, about 8 years after she bought her first house, she got her first brand new car. She's had cars before that, but they were always used or hand-me-downs or something. So I really remember the way I lived. I remember the food shortages and stuff like that. And it made me the type of person I am today, where now, one, I'm a lot more fiscally responsible than anybody else. Like, I try to eliminate any bad habits that would normally cost money. Like, I don't smoke. I never got involved in any type of drugs growing up because I just didn't want to waste the money on it. I just thought it was a waste. But now, looking back on it, I really appreciate the way I grew up. I really appreciate all the sacrifices my mom made and stuff like that. So that actually makes me very goal-oriented. I don't want to be like that. And I think going from living in an abandoned house when I was a kid to having $500,000 as I'll be 35, I think that's a huge leap. And I think it's a good goal. If you bring out a retirement tracker, I already have more than most people do at my age. Most people who retire end up having, at my age bracket, end up having about $150,000. And I'm well above that, which is good because that means I'm going to be very fat on retirement when it comes time. But I feel like $500,000 is a good goal for next year, and then I plan to set more goals after that, which I will keep you all informed about. So that's why I chose that goal. Now, how I'm going to accomplish that goal. So I have a written budget, which I've talked about before, but really the key is that when I spend money, well, one of the keys is that when I spend money, I'm trying to spend money in stuff that would give me a return. Paying off mortgages is actually good for me. Paying down debts, good for me, because it all helps me towards my end goal. The other thing I did was the solar panels. So the solar panels, okay, believe it or not, they don't add that much of a value to your house. The fact is that the value of your house is more or less directly linked to the neighborhood it's in. And I'm sure there's a lot of real estate guys on YouTube that could explain it a lot better than me. But my house is already one of the nicer houses in my neighborhood. And it's coming in at about $340,000, about 330 to 340. So the thing is that no matter what I do, if I put $35,000 worth of solar panels on the roof, that's great. But I'm not suddenly going to, my $330,000 house isn't going to suddenly be worth $365,000 unless the other houses in the neighborhood appreciate with it. The simple fact is that people that can afford almost $400,000 for a house aren't going to buy in that neighborhood. Now, there are exceptions, and solar energy and solar panels being put in are new enough that there's a lot of unknowns. But I'm thinking about it as if I don't get any extra money for that. What it does do is it makes your house a lot more attractive. And hopefully it causes like a bidding war. So the thing is that when you're selling a house, the idea that they never have to pay an electric bill is extremely attractive, especially since each year the fuels, well, fossil fuels, if they use fossil fuels, cost more. Not right now because of the coronavirus, but generally speaking, oil and natural gas prices have been going up, or at least steady. The simple fact is that your utility prices aren't going to be getting cheaper, as far as I know, based on the studies I've read. It appears that they're always going to go up, or they're either going to stay the same or go up. So when it comes to other forms of spending, certain things you just need. You need food. You need gas for your car. Unfortunately, neither I nor my fiance have hybrids. We don't have Teslas or anything like that. So we're still paying for gas, like a peasant. But we are trying our best to conserve money where we can. One of the ways we're doing that is with the solar panels, we're selling some of the power back into the grid. Now, they have to pay us one for one, so whatever they charge us for a kilowatt hour, they have to pay us for a kilowatt hour. So it actually works out pretty nice. But we also we're eating out less, or at least we plan to when we finally get back home. And we're just trying to be a little smarter with our purchases in order to achieve these goals. The other really key thing, besides just optimizing when you do spend your money, is trying to have as much income as possible. I know Dave Ramsey talks all the time about, I think, rice and beans. He's like, if you're trying to pay off debt, rice and beans, rice and beans. But one, I lived in Puerto Rico for a summer back when I was finishing high school, and I worked for a company down there, and that's all I ate. And although I found it good, I don't know if I want to live off of it. And two, we have a kid, and I have to tell you, kids will probably starve themselves before they eat something they don't want to eat. Now, my son has stuff that he doesn't like, but he doesn't prefer, but he'll eat. But then he has stuff that he just straight up won't eat. So regulating our food budget's kind of difficult. With that said, right now we spend a lot more than we should, at over $800 a month on just groceries. And part of that is wasted because we tend to buy a lot of fresh produce and stuff, and then we don't plan out our meals the way we should, so a lot of that stuff gets wasted, which I do plan on correcting when I get back home. But another thing I plan on doing is that normally when I'm between deployments, I don't work. I just sit around and do nothing. This time I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get a part-time job, so I'll be collecting my retainer from my company while I sit at home until my next deployment, while simultaneously working a second job. The second job doesn't have to be very much. I mean, like, I can go work as like an order picker at Amazon or something like that. I can go work at Walmart and be a greeter, and I can get paid for doing very little work compared to what I'm used to. And I won't get paid nearly as much as I get paid now, but it'll be something. So that's actually one of our key things. While I was rewatching some of my past videos, I realized that I never really explained how I'm going to accomplish this, because to most people, putting $120,000 in the bank in a year and a half seems impossible. I have a very unique set of circumstances, and I feel like I can do this. I think most people, when you're watching this, I wouldn't try to copy my goals. I would start with something that is better sculpted for your personal financial position right now. If you can set the same goal, that's great. And if you want to get as close as you can, awesome. But definitely choose your goals wisely, because on paper, I have a chance of actually getting my goal, of completing my goal. If I stick to my plan, I will complete my goal. But some people, there's just not much way you can do that. Most people, if you're making 60 grand a year, but 55 of it is going just to keep you and your family, housed and clothed and fed and, gas in your car and stuff, then you might have a $5,000 surplus each month, or I'm sorry, each year, but it won't necessarily, it only in a year and a half, it only add up to $7,500, and you won't be able to reach the goal that you set. And I think that's setting yourself up for failure, which is something you definitely want to avoid in this. You definitely want to make sure you are setting realistic goals. So that's my opinion on how to set goals and what to pick for yourself. Take it for what it's worth, and good luck. Keep saving.